Hello, citizens of YouTube. It is BoneCanoe86 here. I'm here today to talk about, well, this is a gaming vlog of sorts, but it's a little bit different than previous gaming vlogs because I intend to talk about, Let's Playing in general and sort of where it's gone recently and my place in it, basically, because the world of Let's Playing has changed significantly since my first entry into it in 2009. Well, I'll start off with a little brief history, a very brief history for those of you who don't know. Let's Playing is usually considered to have begun on the website Something Awful in 2006. And there were both video and text, screenshot Let's Plays. And video Let's Plays were just a sort of an offshoot of screenshot Let's Plays at first. But in 2007, the following year, it sort of spread out onto YouTube and it sort of started to proliferate a little bit more because more and more people were seeing what the Something Awful people were doing and they were imitating it. Now, at first, Something Awful was the only one making like really good Let's Plays, and all the YouTube Let's Players, as they call them, of the time, the majority of them were not that good. The bigger ones hadn't risen to the top yet, and so that's when you get the backlash of things like Retsu Prey, which started at the beginning of 2008, making fun of these YouTube Let's Play channels. But then, as we got into 2008, I think that the early big names on YouTube started to grow. That was the time where Nintendo Capri Sun and Chaka Conroy, for instance, started. So there were these old school YouTube Let's Players that really grew their fan base organically and really have a lot of love from their fans. Now, you have to remember at the time, this was before Machinima, before these networks, and Let's Playing was very much a almost like an underground activity, meaning it wasn't endorsed or supported by anyone, and basically Let's Players were in constant fear of their stuff being taken down by copyright strikes. It was always a quasi-legal area, like, are Let's Plays a legitimate thing, or are they copyright violations? And, that dogged all the early Let's Players. Now, when I joined in April of 2009, it was still an era of, uncertain legality, and it was still an era where the field was still pretty open, People were rising organically through the ranks, and although the big guys had already sort of obtained dominance by that point, and by 2009, all the big games that would come to your mind first when you think of classic video games had been done, I was still able to find sort of a niche to carve out of the YouTube Let's Play market when I did my Civ 3, which no one had done to that point, and The Sims 2, which few people had done, and even fewer had stuck with. Now, things began to change for the Let's Playing community in 2010 when the landmark YouTube versus Viacom case was decided in favor of YouTube and Google, which we all hailed as a victory, and rightfully so, because that was a very good thing. But basically what it did is it dismissed Viacom's sort of charge against YouTube that its copyright strikes that they were trying to pursue were not really legitimate, I guess, or something like that. And Let's Playing went from being this quasi-legal underground thing to being this endorsed and supported thing almost overnight. And we all rejoiced at that, No longer would we be running from copyright strikes. Our stuff was legitimate now. But there was a side effect to this that would turn out to be very negative for small and mid-sized channels, and even the bigger channels of old who didn't really catch on to the times. We had the rise of networks like Machinima, where people could get officially be part of a network, be part of something that makes them money even. So Let's Playing went from something that was that was sort of underground and illegitimate to some like a legitimate form of earning money, and that was it was cool at first. When we saw Nintendo Capri Sun and Chugga Conroy become partners, we all were all like, good for them. But then, over the last 2 years, we've seen the rise of these giant new Let's Play channels, many with over 1 million subscribers, like the Yogscast. And don't get me wrong, I do like the Yogscasts. I think they're pretty cool. But, all these big Machinima-endorsed YouTube channels are sort of storming over everyone. The field is not as free as it used to be. The algorithms of YouTube, favor these big, vast Machinima-endorsed channels, and because there's money involved there, and it just sort of steamrolls over the rest of us. We've sort of become a I don't know, as the Will of DC said, YouTube is turning into Hollywood in the way it's run, which is not a good thing, really. And that, of course, applies to much more than just Let's Playing, but the effect is felt on Let's Playing very well. And even the greats of yesteryear, the big guys who played with a lot of heart, such as Chugga Conroy and Nintendo Capri Sun, even they are sort of not as prominent as they once were in the Let's Playing community. I mean, they're still gaining subscribers, but they are small compared to some of the new guys rising up. I mean, the days in which Chugga Conroy had the most subscribers are long gone, basically. And, I mean, it could be one of those things where, each new era is looked down upon by the old era. The old Something Awful Let's Players look down on the upstarts like Chugga Conroy, and now, those of us who sort of started in that era are sort of looking at with scorn at these new mega channels that are coming out. So it might just be one of those things, but really I think that the developments in the last 2 years have trended more and more towards the marginalization of small channels like mine, and I have 2,500 subscribers or so, which is still, in the grand scheme of things, is pretty small. I would say, 10,000 is sort of the threshold to be even considered a mid-sized channel anymore, and I'm short of that, so I'm still considered a pretty small channel, and it's pretty much going to be impossible for me to move up in the YouTube Let's Playing world, as it stands right now. Channels such as mine have been pushed to the side. However, I have one thing on my side. I have one thing that's going to be the one thing that's going to keep this channel going when anything else is. I mean, there's sort of two things, but there's one main thing, and that main thing is The Sims 2. I still am really the only person who has done what I'm doing with The Sims 2, Even beyond making a Let's Play, actually making shows where people are following the characters and such. I'm really the only one who's done that. I mean, other people have made Let's Plays, but almost no one has completed any. So what I have to do is I have to get back to making Sims 2 videos. And I know I say this every once in a while, but I really am making efforts to try to find video editing software that works, that I can understand and I can use, because, I've reached so many dead ends with other software, and it gets annoying, you know, because I just want it to be like the old days where I could easily edit something in Windows Movie Maker, but Windows Movie Maker is crapped out on me. Even reinstalling it doesn't work, you know. There's, in theory, there's new versions I can try, so that's something I'm going to try. I was fiddling around with Premiere, but Premiere is just, you know, it's so complicated that it makes my eyes just go all cross-eyed when I look at it. And I'm sure there's other good stuff out there, but that's the one thing that I have that's going to help me, is because no one does The Sims 2 quite like I've done it, and I know a lot of people have recently left this channel because I haven't made any Sims 2 videos in almost a year, not counting the Jamils, of course. But I predict that if I make more Sims 2 videos, these people will find their way back onto the channel. It's happened before. And now sort of the secondary thing that's going to help me is, you know, the simulation, the other simulation type games that I've been playing, like SimCity and Cities XL, although, you know, the rising star in that field is my buddy Dwyron, and he's really taken the forefront to that. But, you know, I still have a bit of appeal, I guess, in those kind of things, but even that's secondary. You know, Minecraft is not really something that's going to get me more viewers. It's something that's more like a treat for the viewers that I do have, because, you know, Minecraft was already overdone when I got the game, but I played it because I just loved it so much that I couldn't not play it, more or less. But it's not something that I can really, you know, I'm not going to be one of those big Minecraft channels. It's just not going to happen. So pretty much Minecraft can exist, but it's sort of secondary to everything else. So pretty much that's where I stand in the whole field of Let's Playing right now. You know, I can try all these various things all I want, but it's not going to get me much recognition. I'm pretty much, you know, I've pretty much found what I can do here on YouTube, and it is The Sims 2, and everything else is kind of secondary. So I don't want to give you promises that I can't keep. But I will just say that I'm looking into new video editing software and new things. So hopefully the Sims 2 series will be restarted once again very soon. Well, that's it for the gaming blog. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you, I hope you learned something about the history and the current state of Let's Playing, and I would like to hear your input on what you think about the current state of Let's Playing and how it's changed in the past few years, because maybe you have insights that I don't, and maybe you even have ideas of how it's going to continue to develop over the next few years. But anyway, I'll see all you guys later, so good night.